Well, that's it. Another Monday Night Raw in the books, and we now have the knowledge of who will be representing Monday Night Raw in both the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments this upcoming Saturday in Saudi Arabia. Of course, in the main event, a stellar main event between main event Jey Uso and the ring general Gunther, it would be Gunther who would emerge victorious, setting his place in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. In what was a spectacular matchup between the two, between Jey Uso and Gunther. I personally, along with many others, were rooting for Gunther for him to represent Monday Night Raw in the King of the Ring tournament. I love Jey Uso. I'm a fan of what he's doing ever since he broke away from Jimmy Uso and the Bloodline. His run as a single star has been nothing short of entertaining. Not only has he been able to increase his popularity and his relationship with the audience by not only incorporating the catchphrase of Yeet, but his entrance alone has impressed many of us wrestling fans. I love it every time I see it. It's almost like a concert come to life. But for the purpose of this tournament, I do think that the main favorite, the guy that we all should be rooting for, the guy who should become synonymous with reestablishing the credibility of the King of the Ring tournament, should be the very same individual who restored the credibility of the Intercontinental Championship, that being Gunther. Ever since he has made his main roster debut a couple years ago on Friday Night SmackDown, Gunther has been on a tear. He not only had a monstrous reign as the Intercontinental Champion, but has been on a streak of having great matches with the likes of Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, and now Jey Uso is added to that list. And take nothing away from Jey Uso, because they did manage to kind of protect him in his loss against Gunther. Rather than submitting or taking a pinfall loss, instead we saw Jey Uso fight back against Gunther, demonstrating resiliency throughout the course of the matchup, and ultimately falling short by not submitting and not by taking a pinfall, but by being unable to respond to the referee and passing out, essentially. Very reminiscent to a Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13, who would suffer the same type of loss against Bret Hart. It's a very smart way of protecting the babyface. He never gave up, therefore he can argue that he was never beaten, but at the same time it demonstrates the level of intelligence and the level of savviness that a heel like Gunther demonstrates in this matchup. And so now, as I mentioned, we have the Monday Night Raw set for the King of the Ring. So we look forward to Friday Night SmackDown as Randy Orton takes on Tama Tonga in the semifinals of the SmackDown bracket. Now, if you ask me, heading into this finals, a lot of people said it was either going to be Randy Orton versus Gunther, or the possibility of Jey Uso taking on Tama Tonga to further that Bloodline storyline. Now that we know for certain that Jey Uso has not advanced and instead it is Gunther, I find it very hard to believe that we can expect Tama Tonga to emerge victorious. I think what we will see is Randy Orton defeating Tama Tonga, whether it is with the help of Kevin Owens or not. I think he moves on to face Gunther, and now we have an opportunity to see a dream match, a match that we have not seen just quite yet, a match that I think favors Gunther, because at this point in his career, Randy Orton doesn't necessarily need a King of the Ring victory. What he does need is a great showing against someone with the talent of a Gunther. I do anticipate an all-time classic matchup. It could potentially be match of the night. However, I think the main event of Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes will have something to say about that. So with that being said, I think I've already spoiled my prediction for what the King of the Ring final will be. Randy Orton taking on Gunther, and the eventual King of the Ring being Gunther, who will instead be from the Ring General, will become probably the King General, maybe? Also on this episode of Monday Night Raw, we saw Lyra Valkyria defeat Io Sky in what I thought was an upset. I personally had pegged Io Sky as the winner to go on into the Queen of the Ring final, but instead WWE provides us with a pleasant surprise, giving the young up-and-coming Lyra Valkyria that spot in the Queen of the Ring final. Now, who she will face is yet to be determined. I could definitely see them running a babyface versus babyface matchup, as Lyra may take on Bianca Belair. But with that injured knee that she's been showing in these last couple of matches in the Queen of the Ring tournament, I would not be surprised if Jade Cargill somehow finds her way interfering in the Bianca versus Nia Jax match, potentially losing her cool and maybe costing Bianca Belair the matchup. I personally think it might be Nia Jax versus Lyra Valkyria, but again, I wouldn't put it past WWE to have that babyface versus babyface matchup. Regardless, I'm very interested in this matchup because I can't really predict it. If Lyra were to face Nia Jax, I could easily see it seeing Nia Jax being the Queen of the Ring. But with my prediction of Gunther being King of the Ring, I find it hard to believe to have a heel win both King and Queen of the Ring tournaments. I feel you probably need one and one of the other in order to balance that out, therefore suggesting that a babyface will be winning the Queen of the Ring tournament. Regardless, what was a wonderful matchup between two women, Lyra Valkyria defeated Io Sky, and Io Sky demonstrating a level of frustration after the matchup as she would take the microphone before Lyra Valkyria could have her interview, and obviously saying something in Japanese that we weren't able to understand. But regardless, the body language, the character, we know that she is frustrated with this loss. So it's curious to see how we will move forward with Damage Control, especially since Damage Control lost the Fatal 4-Way #1 Contenders match to Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark later in that night. In other news from Monday Night Raw, one of my favorite storylines going forward has been the Alpha Academy and how Chad Gable in his manipulative ways with members like Otis, Akira Tozawa, and Maxine Dupree, how that's been progressing. Now that we know at the King and Queen of the Ring event, it will be a triple threat match for the Intercontinental title, Sami Zayn defending against Big Bronson Reed and Chad Gable. Of course, we saw last week that Chad Gable got a little physical with Otis, his #1 guy, as he slapped him across the face. And in his matchup against Sami Zayn this week, he urged Maxine Dupree and Akira Tozawa to interfere on his behalf when the referee's back was turned. But the two baby faces struggled internally to do so, therefore leading to Chad Gable sending them to the back and eventually having Otis interfere on his behalf, something that he was very hesitant to do, but ultimately he would cost Sami Zayn the matchup, allowing Chad Gable to take a big win and earning a level of momentum heading into that title match at Saudi Arabia's event, King and Queen of the Ring. But we saw a level of remorse on Otis's part as backstage he would apologize to Sami Zayn, demonstrating that there is probably some good left in him. It's either going to be one or the other, right? We're going to see Otis either maybe cause a swerve and really fully go heel, allowing Chad Gable to win the Intercontinental Championship, or perhaps he will be the main reason why Sami Zayn will retain. Or perhaps the ultimate swerve, Big Bronson Reed, who's been off in the shadows just worried about one thing, and that's the gold. Not worried about respect, not worried about the honor of being a champion, but just wanted the big payday. He wants to be the champion, have the gold, and just rid his hands of the mess that has been the Alpha Academy and Sami Zayn saga. But yeah, overall, a real fun episode of Monday Night Raw. I really enjoyed the stuff with Braun Breaker as he's seemingly drowning himself in a level of madness and rage that will not only infuriate that of Adam Pearce, but perhaps will cause the rest of the locker room to be on notice. We saw what he did to the NXT talent on Monday Night Raw, and then following an attack with Ricochet, obviously we can anticipate some kind of program going through there. But being that Ricochet was with Ilya Dragunov, and Ilya Dragunov has NXT history with Braun Breaker, I'm curious to see if we find that rivalry rekindled in some form or fashion. And of course, before I end this video, I just want to take a quick moment to address the Uncle Howdy QR codes. We had another QR code during the Sami Zayn and Chad Gable matchup, and what was a fun and interesting way to approach it, as it had a level of survey questions such as, can love be unconditional? Have they been set free? Do you want to see them? And in a level of questions, you would have to answer a certain way to unlock multiple attachments. One being an audio playing message, another unlocking a potential riddle where you had to scramble the words and figure out where it aligns. And ultimately, it would reveal itself to be a puppet is free as long as he loves his strings. A lot of interesting details regarding the Uncle Howdy QR codes, and a lot of speculation leading to believe that they will make their debut, or their return essentially, at the King and Queen of the Ring event this weekend. Something to keep an eye on. But what do you guys think? What did you guys think of this episode of Monday Night Raw? What were some of your favorite moments or matches that had taken place? And I look forward to talking more about pro wrestling, especially with Friday Night SmackDown this upcoming week. and another episode of the J Area Podcast. And of course, Double or Nothing and King and Queen of the Ring taking place this weekend. So be on the lookout for my quick, immediate reactions following those events. Of course, with that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr., and I will see you guys in the next video.